And ladies and gents, here we are. We are finally in the playoffs of Titans League Season 2. And this is the round of 12. We will have 4 round of 12s. This is between the third place and second place players from separate groups. Winners move on to the quarterfinals against players who had won their group. In the red, we have Valas. Valas didn't look too hot the first 2 weeks of Titans League. Ended up getting third place in Group A, which was insane. It was a 4-way tie with 6 wins for 4 different players. He got third place on the tie breaks. He is from Finland. And then we have Villese in the north of the map. Villese was second place in the first season, and it was the same story. He got second place in his group, then got into the playoffs, and we'll see if he can make his way to the final yet again. He is also from Finland. We have our 2 Finnish pros up against each other here with very similar names. Gotta love it, Ornlu.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a joy for sure. But, we're going to start things off nice and simple on Arabia. Franks versus Mayans, classic matchup. And I wonder, neither of these guys tend to go for anything too wild. Maybe Valas a little bit more than Villese. But this could just be sort of a nice standard macro game to sort of feel out to see how the set's going to go.
Yeah, and oh my goodness, the lumber camp from Villese. It's one of those that I think is going to be amazing, but I'm worried about if he has 4 villagers on wood.
Yeah.
But
no, I totally agree. I feel like in the long run, you don't really need to build a second lumber camp on that wood line, but there's going to be some Vil bumping. I don't trust Vil pathfinding enough.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, to be good.
I will say this. I did this a couple months ago. It was a long day, and I tried this with a mining camp. The gold was shaped weird. I tried it with a mining camp. Don't try with a mining camp, guys. It takes so much longer to take out a tile of gold than it does a tree. So far, it looks like Villese is actually making this work. Sorry, we had our normal intro going there, and then I saw a lumber camp, and it completely went out the window. But you don't see that every day.
No, I mean, I spend most of my time casting looking at farms and not fights. So.
There you go. Yeah, farms and not fights. It sounds like a really good, hashtag or something. I don't know. So Mayans Franks on Arabia, a matchup that can go either way, I think, right? And I think we've always thought that the more open the matchup, or the more open the map, the better the matchup could be for the Franks since they have more mobility. Villese has played Mayans so many times, and I know his thing, and he likes to take control early, but he definitely likes to wall. So, I think that this is going to be a good opportunity for Valas to open up aggressively, because it doesn't look like the Mayan player will have all that many opportunities to get easy walls down.
Yeah, of course, this Arabia generation is a little bit on the open side. The gold in the back, forge bushes and stone in the back, it's all really handy, but there's just a lot of open and empty space. To wall yourself in, Mayans cheaper walls, of course, going to be a little bit easier than most civs, but especially with these early walls, he's not going to go for the fastest drush possible, which is something we see a lot with Mayans, and I generally don't hate going aggressive versus a player who you think is probably going to open scouts, but we'll have to see how that one unfolds as, well, just pushing deer.
Yeah, it's very rare, actually, to have just 3 on wood at the start with the Mayans. Normally, it's always 4, whether that means early barracks or, barracks leaning up towards, or leading up towards, the feudal age. So, almost feels like, he's 1 villager walling already. He's probably going to expect scouts. It almost feels like he is going to just go archers and walls. And if I know Villese, I think he's going to use this house in front of his TC to the woodline to the left, then from the house to the right of the TC to the woodline on the right. And if he could just wall to the cliff then on the right, suddenly he's got back stone, back berries, back gold, and he's safe. So that's what I'm thinking. But really fast uptime here from Valas. He's gone up even faster than you would normally see. He's gone with 17 Vils and his scouts, so 18 population. He wants to rush it quick.
Yep. Must be playing a lot of team games these days because this is all you see in team games.
Yeah.
Super fast uptimes. Going to be going for scouts. Nobody going on gold or anything like that. Yeah, there's the barracks coming in right now. And, well, it seems unlikely that Villese, rather, will be completely walled. Oh, boy. It begins. But look at this, T90. We're already going in with a forward lumber camp as the second one, so no easy walls to the town center. This is going to be a fairly ambitious endeavor.
Yeah. Well, this starting scout needs to get some great value here for Valas, and he's going to see important resources to focus on. And that starting scout, at the very least, can just stop wall potential. And if you find a villager walling on its own, there's no spearman there, you can easily get the villager pick. It feels like Valas knows he's going to come in here as the underdog. He got 6 wins, right, and got through on tiebreak. Whereas Villese, I forget the amount of wins. I think he was on 9 wins in his
he was
group.
9-6.
Yeah, 9-6. And it also, Villese looked really strong, particularly the last 2 to 3 weeks. Because I know he had taken a break around the holidays. So really starting to come into form. So yeah, just go for it, man, if you're Valas. Go aggressive and really try and get some kills early here. I love the mindset because Valas as a player isn't necessarily seen as a really aggressive player. He prefers the long, boomy games.
Very much so. But Villese himself going to be going up, not too greedy other than the early walls, just going for early archers. Some scouts coming out for Valas. Interesting forward house. It looks like he might be wanting to wall out a little bit further forward than to his TC as well.
Yep, okay, scouts there. Timing's good for Villese on the Spearman. So even though the scouts will be coming out a little bit faster, that Spearman able to defend for now. Obviously, Valas could always outrun it. And Villese is just sitting at home right now. He knows the situation. He knows that archers are much slower. It's going to take time for him to build that up, and then these scouts have more HP for the Franks.
Yep, and just going to be trying to dart around with a few units. Spearman does get the first poke in right there, and Scout does fall for 1 Spearman. That's going to be a trade that Villese is happy to take. Just reducing the early number of Scout numbers, each individual Scout is much more worthwhile than each Spearman. And, well, just seems like a nice, peaceful opening, other than the, dead horse rider dude.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost one of those where I think Valas committed to the fight because he didn't notice originally. But he's got to be careful here. You don't want to commit to villagers and then lose scouts, but then again, you feel all this pressure. First game of the series, too, the nerves are going to be there, but the nerves definitely are there in the first game. Normally, it's by game number 2 or 3 you start to really be used to the field, but 3 Spearmen, I mean, not a fun feeling. Meanwhile, at home, though, we already do have skirmishers for Valas. So, there's pros and cons to this situation. The pro is obviously, when archers come over, you're going to have skirm defense, and that's precisely what's going to happen. The con is you don't have tons of farms as the Franks just yet.
No, and that is, of course, going to be really important for that mid-game transition. I don't think we're really in a situation where either player is likely to get a massive amount of damage done in Feudal Age, which is just going to make the Castle Age timing that much more valuable. I mean, right now we just have all these walls coming in. Maybe some vills are a little out of position relative to the Spearmen, so maybe we could see some value here for Valas.
Yeah, I see. Villese was trying to push forward, and he was focused on that, and he thought his Spearman at home would be enough because he has the numbers, but Valas kills 2 villagers there. Also delays the blacksmith. This is beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is exactly what scouts give you, especially if you're not going for very small walls like we see all the time these days. Like, this is why we don't see these sorts of walls all that often, because units come in, whether they be like 4 archers with fletching or 3 scout cavalry, they're going to come in and they're going to find some value, and then suddenly you're down 2 villagers for nothing in return. And at the other side, some skirmishers are going to be enough to defend for the time being for Valas, and we'll see if he can take a nice fight here with the scouts and skirms.
Yeah, and he should know that fletching isn't in right now because the blacksmith was delayed, but that's already a really good start to this game. Also, something that Valas won't know is that Villese had 30 seconds of idle TC time. So Lions did start with the additional villager, so it's still just a 2-villager lead here for Valas, but I mean, the farming eco is looking great. He's going to transition to his back gold now, and as long as he can track this army, I think that's the hardest thing right now. As long as he can track that archer army from Villese, he should be able to push it back.
Well, thankfully, he does have scout cavalry, which can live up to their name and scout to see exactly where their opponents are. But you can see the archers maybe trying to sneak around just a little bit, using the infantry units as a bit of a shield. But it seems like Valas is pretty eager to take a fight, going forward here with just some skirmishers and scouts.
Yep. Remember, 6 on gold right now for Villese. There is always a world where in the long term you want to go Eagles in this matchup, but for now, his Eagles are finding it difficult to get in close because of the scout presence. And I'm loving the timing on the upgrades and the micro from Valas so far. This is so clean. 5-1 KD, make it 6-1 KD. And he's going to go in now for the archers here. Now, he doesn't have that many skirms. I think that's my main worry for him. If he had like 5 more skirmishers, he would have mopped up everything. But maybe a little over-eager because of how good things were going. And he's got to fall back home now.
Yeah, just a little bit too overeager. +1 defense for those skirmishers would have been really nice to have in that fight. Unfortunately for Valas, it didn't come in until the last moment. But now we have a market coming in for him as well. So maybe going to be thinking about trying to get to Castle Age pretty soon, but right now he did sacrifice a lot of his army, and that is a big old mass of Mayan units coming right to his face.
Yeah, and he did get the house foundation down, so that's going to help delay. But it feels like these units are going to go through, and he wanted to go for the full wall here, so this is going to kind of ruin his plans. Villager on the right side will be exposed, and he's going to fall back. I feel, again, if he's got a couple skirms here, he could be okay. And, the pressure from Villese, the damage control from Valas, but the villager's gone down. There's so many exposed villagers on this left-hand side. Valas really needs to stabilize here.
He does indeed, and look at this, behind this. Who cares if you lose 2 villagers early? Villese still going to cruise his way to Castle Age ahead of his opponent, not even needing to sell his stone or anything like that. So, great damage control actually here for Villese, as right now Valas is just panicking a little bit, trying to get the house walls in as needed. Skirmishers are going to whittle away at those archer numbers. And I don't think Valas is going to take any sort of astronomical damage, but his Castle Age is still being delayed.
Yeah. I do like this, though. The 2 scouts saw that 1 archer is there, gets a free kill. And then he's got enough skirm numbers to maybe threaten the archers for the time being. But that's the thing. It's for the time being. And the Mayans, they're so good when they play into the crossbowmen with their economy. Franks, yeah, okay, skirms are great. But you normally want to be going knights in eco. You don't necessarily want to be going skirms in eco. So Valas is going to have to get a balance down here of how many skirms he wants to commit to. Will he stop making skirms from now on until Castle Age? Or is he going to have to really commit to them?
I feel like you need to make some more army right here. Another villager has gone down, so Villese now with 3 total kills. And there's around a minute-ish advantage in Castle Age timing, so if you don't have any army, that doesn't seem like a great way to not die.
Yeah. It's always so tricky, because Elite Skirm also, it's more expensive than Crossbowmen. It does cost different resources, but it also takes twice as long to research Elite Skirm. So if the crossbow player's faster, man, oh man, is it tough to defend with skirmishers. But I guess you could argue it's tougher to try and go knights when you have to wait until Castle Age to be able to make those knights.
Very true, and right now we do have that second stable about to come in. Archers might try and pepper those villagers as they're trying to complete the building, but no, it will get done, and not a single villager is lost. The Castle Age is now in. Crossbow and Bodkin about to be in as well, and yet Valas is going to be hitting Castle Age in just a few seconds. His resource bank is pretty good, and if he can survive long enough to get to chain barding armor, he will be in a good spot to, push out with maybe 5-ish knights and clean all this up.
This right here, this is classic Villese, right? Take control of the game, have an army forward, and then just play macro behind it. He's dropping his town centers now, and he's going to fall back. And I think the reasoning for falling back is his army number's not very strong, and he was posing such a threat there to his opponent that it's unlikely that Valas is going to just show up with knights without +2 armor, or it's unlikely that Valas isn't going to add the siege. So since he knows that it's going to be extra commitment, he's going to fall back. But still very impressed with Valas' position, right? And if he has knights and scorpions on the field in the middle of this map, it could be really strong. Main thing for him is just going to be vision on his sides, I think. Making sure that crossbowmen don't loop in. You can tell he's kind of worried on the right side. Also thinking on the left side, too, to plug those gaps. But for now, he's got to find the army. A town watch will probably tell him that the army is close if Villese continues to move in. But as I say that, Villese is just still a little uncertain here, Ornlu. Just falling back home.
Yeah, but I really like that Villese fell back when he did. He saw his opponent get to Castle Age. He knew that he was in a better spot getting his TC down. He's got his monastery going for monks, so just fall back. Don't lose your archers needlessly. Make sure that you can maintain those numbers, because that's going to be what wins you the matchup versus knights.
Yep.
And right now, Villese not necessarily being, the most aggressive, but he is still looking for those relics, scouting on the sides of the map with his Eagle Warriors. The scouting is a lot better than his opponent's. And just as you've been saying, very content to play that macro style. And it's going to be 3 TCs to 1 in just a moment.
Yeah, and monks are the most important unit on the field right now for Villese, because if you convert a single knight, that knight can then take out any of the siege and skirmishers that are on the other side. So when he added those monks is crucial, not just for the relics, but also for the fights. And even something like Sanctity now, just such an important upgrade. 2 years ago, we wouldn't have seen people prioritize that as early. But just keep that monk HP there, and it allows you to maybe have a couple extra seconds on a conversion. But a big shot there. There's a really big shot there. And Sanctity or no Sanctity, that monk goes down.
Yeah, and Mangonel going to be looking for another hit. No. crossbowmen are able to scooch back in time, but right now the army value is actually almost double for our red players. Going to have husbandry in just a moment, and without monks, this army of crossbowmen is way too small to deal with the knights. Now, there are still 2 on the field with a good 3 more queued up, but it's still not going to be the easiest defense.
Now, remember all the archers that Valas was able to kill in Feudal. How important was that, right? Because normally the crossbowman player has about 20, 25 right now, and they're able to really compete against those knights. But it feels like if the monks weren't there, Valas would have dove, and he's even going for another siege workshop. And I know we've had some bad generations in this version of Arabia, but I love the hills and how it presents these types of opportunities. And Valas, he's going for double siege, double knights. He is going to add a TC at home, but he could get some massive shots here as he does hit the monk because he has the hill, and Villese has to fall back again.
Yeah, there is one more monk over here, but once you get past one mangonel, it becomes very difficult to micro. And right now, the monk is just simply on the retreat. There's another one looking for a conversion. Mangonel is unfortunately going to be attacking uphill. Oh, that's a pretty nice hit. It's a fadeaway shot from the mangonel, but oh man, Villese is currently being cut up by that Frankish cavalry.
Yeah, and now that you know that there's more siege on that hill, you're at risk of losing your town centers. And Valas, the underdog, comes in. He will lose some of his siege on the hill, but he's doing a great job here to maybe repair it. Can he save that mangonel? I think he will, Ornlu. And there's just so many knights in Villese's eco right now. The eco KD is going to change massively here. And the idle time. That you might be on 3 TCs, but the idle time is going to mean that your economy is not working that efficiently at all. It's a beautiful job here from Valas.
I would consider having 2/3 of your villagers idle a pretty inefficient economy.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great at all. Now, no redemption for the Mayans is a big weakness. You can't convert the siege. You're only trying to convert the knights and then kill the siege with those knights. And look at how Valas is spread out here. He's got the main push there on the hill, but he's also gone to the gold. He's been underneath the town centers. Now, he will lose a knight to a conversion here, but he's killed 11 villagers, and he's on 2 town centers, too. So his eco is actually pretty good here, Ornlu. Not to mention that, whether it's intentional or not, he's actually on stone. So with Franks and their cheap castles, we could always see one of those come up soon.
A couple more villagers are going to be dying to some incoming mangonel fire. And yeah, as you've been saying, the hills here in front of the base, it just provides this super strong position from which Valas can push. And unfortunately for Villese, what he was trying to do as the push was coming in was to see mangonel get the kill. Oh, that was huge. What I was saying is that he's trying to make the transition over into pikemen. And that just creates this really awkward moment where he just doesn't have that much to defend himself. And sure, he's got the pikeman out right now, but already he's been knocked pretty far on the back foot.
Yeah, and you could see kind of the stress in the moment. He had like 6 monks in queue. Obviously now he's got about 6 monks on the field. He wasn't able to produce the pikemen. He stopped producing villagers for a moment there. But ultimately, it kind of feels like you just got to give up this TC. I don't see how you engage in any way to stop this unless you get redemption on your monks, which mines do not. You could try and convert the knights, but that TC will go down. Mangonel hops out again. He is trying to save it. He's advancing forward with the pikemen. All of his monks are very weak right now. He's got to be careful not to lose his monks to the 2nd and 3rd Mangonel shot.
Yeah, I mean, Sanctity monks can survive 1 Mangonel hit, but definitely not 5.
Yeah. And they're healing each other there. I guess he's trying to tempt Valas forward so he can convert the knights, but Valas is doing such a great job here. He's got a Lycav there for another monk. Man, I don't want to come off as disrespectful here, but the reality is, Villese is the favorite. Now, I was not expecting Valas to be able to push back against the early aggression that Villese put out and just snowball this push. This is incredible.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's got 5 Mangonels right now. Of course, as you've been saying, Mayans, no way of converting. And that means you need to rely on Eagle Warriors or your own Mangonels to snipe Siege. And you can't make Eagle Warriors and Pikemen at the same time. Eagle Warrior upgrade is now in, but, well, I guess there's only 6 Knights right now. He's not really prioritizing the extra numbers is Valas, but just having all of these Siege units right here is just demolishing the front of Valese's base.
And he's going to bring villagers forward as well, Ornlu. So I think he's going to aim to drop a castle. Now, I know he's doing a million different things right now, but just something that I would love to see him do is drop an outpost on the right side and drop an outpost on the left, because there's a lot of gold there. And those are going to be areas that can allow Villese back into the game if he can drop castles or, I guess in this case, a town center. And when you have this level of control, you should be able to see that and deny that.
Yeah, it's something that's very relevant and just sort of a great way to make sure that, okay, right now Valas is ahead, let's make sure he always stays ahead, but in comes the castle right at the front of Valesa's base, and I don't really see a way that this is going to be denied in the near future. Also, it's going to present the opportunity to add in some throwing axemen to help with just the random infantry and monks, so you can even use it to round out your army composition, and as those monks are just, well, they're not loving life.
Yeah, it's a bad day to be a man of the clergy. Not a good day at all. And while this castle could have maybe denied the gold that Villese just TC'd the right side, it's still an amazing castle. It's right next to the monastery and all the production buildings. It is next to another gold, which is to the left of this. And it is now a platform in which you can push deeper and deeper into Valese's eco. But Villese clicks up to Imp. The madman clicks up to Imp. I don't know how. And I guess his plan is he just going to, like, I guess, drop a castle on the right side so he can make trebs. Wow, that's just incredible.
Yeah, the way that Villese has been able to at least absorb a lot of this pressure, I mean, it's not a great situation for him any way you cut it, but the fact that he's just not dead right now, I think, is impressive in and of itself. He's going to have a castle, and it's not even going to be on the low ground. He's going to have the slight high ground advantage in a potential Treb war, but not that Valas is hitting Imperial Age anytime soon. But it's going to be a matter of, okay, let's see how you can get to Imperial Age without dying to all of the mangonels that are currently annihilating your base.
And Valas, he must sense this because of the score difference. And he's thinking, maybe I should do the same. Now, he could have multiple castles on the front, right? Because he's Franks. It's much easier for him to achieve that. But we'll see if he even notices. I guess he should know now that Villese has one on the right side. And he might be kicking himself, but he doesn't have time for that. He's got to focus on the fights. And his Mangonel micro has been incredibly strong this game. And as you said, the throwing axeman will help out. The castle fire obviously helps as well. And yes, he will lose a couple mangonels, but he's still got 3 and he's still got scorpions. And there's still a big army problem for Villese.
Yeah, and well, actually, it's more of a small army problem for Villese. He doesn't really have one. I mean, he'll have trebuchets, but even if just a few more knights come in, they could just snipe trebuchets under castles potentially, and now the TCs are going to be getting worked down. And sure, you'll be in Imperial Age, but the chances of you actually getting to any sort of powerful army composition is pretty limited. Yeah,
and I know people are freaking out in these moments. That is not the Imperial Age TC. The Imperial Age TC is the one behind it, so good thinking there from Villese, because that would have been a big mistake. Imp is now in, 38 minutes. Valas' Mangonel micro has been ridiculous. Just consistently getting the snipes. It's so easy to lose 3-1 when you're focusing on so many different things. And he's also dropping a second castle. It is to the left, which I honestly, initially I was thinking, well, that's not going to help you win the Treb war. But actually, that could be good because Villese would have to move his Trebs pretty far away to be able to hit that castle, which gives Valas a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. And that was exactly what I was thinking, because if you can force your opponent to have to move his trebuchets out of the safety of the castle, there are so many units here for Valas that can deal a good amount of melee damage and just snipe those trebs with ease. We do have block printing coming in, which is something that Mayans at least have going for their monks. Going to be at least a little helpful in converting some random knights, which, as you were saying earlier, could help snipe the mangonels. But at the same time, there is just so much destruction right at the front of Valese's base.
And then Villese just had another opportunity to take out 4 mangonels, and he doesn't do it. And he continues to engage. I mean, I'm surprised by how Valas has been able to pressure, but also looking at this KD and looking at the position that Valas has had against Villese, I'm also shocked that Villese is still in this game. Like, how on earth does he still have 107 villagers? He has the villager lead. This is incredible.
First, Trebuchet is popping out. Castle will go down. Okay, actually, the second one from the castle on the side. Mangonels still putting pressure on the town center. It's not going to be really feasible to repair that for all that much longer. But these 2 trebuchets, as we've been saying, they're kind of anchored to this castle. They can't really move out. And we actually have Onager coming in.
Sick.
Is this a BF Amigo or what?
Yeah, this is the Black Forest player in Valas. And he had actually done it in a must-win game against Doubt. I'm not sure if you saw that one, only you probably did. It was on Regicide Fortress, Cumans versus Chinese. And I was like, oh, where's this, where's that? And then he clicked Onager all of a sudden, and it looked beastly, right? He got some big shots on Doubt. And honestly, when you probably don't want to continue with Knights against someone who's going Pikeman. Onager actually makes so much sense. I love this decision.
Yeah, just sort of turn this into more of a closed map game. Go for infantry and siege.
Yep.
And I guess one onager does fall, but now that the upgrade is in, it's just so much more difficult for Mayans to ever take good fights. I mean, Mayans just don't like facing good siege in general. And I mean, just a few plumed archers, they are not at all going to be sufficient, as we just have more siege units coming in here for our red player. And Villese, he does have some pikemen. He even has 10 plumed archers, but this is still a metaphorical and literal uphill battle.
Yeah, now the biggest thing, obviously, for Valas right now is you don't want to give any more knights away, because the knight is actually the best option to take out the onagers right now. So you don't want to make that mistake again. A couple onagers do go down. And he's got the 4 trebs ready. He's dropping another castle, and he's forcing the fight. And I love it. How many times do you see players hesitant when they're the underdog, and they don't just go for the kill? He's refusing to quit with this push. And he might not end up taking out the castle, though Villese is repairing right now. He's trying his best to kill trebuchets with his own trebuchets.
Rushing up masonry to get every little bit of defense possible. Oh, man. That is some very pretty onager control.
We do actually have a castle to the north then as well for Villese, and he's got stone there. So this guy's done an incredible job, but fact is he is really far behind on the amount on food, so he probably won't be able to make that many halbs. And he's sinking a lot of stone into repairs, but oh my god, his treb luck just ridiculous here. I don't know if you can call it luck because it's been the right...
it's treb skill.
Exactly, treb skill, of course. That's what I say when I'm playing as the Huns, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of the most random bonuses ever that Huns have higher accuracy on their trebuchets, but it does come in clutch on occasion.
It does work, you know? It's one of those bonuses that you never notice until you need it.
Well, chemistry was something that Valas had probably considered when he hit him. Now he's getting chemistry, and if he would have had bombard cannons, he would have been able to push this area. But there's just so many different things he's had to consider doing. And Villese has continued to have that population lead despite the horrible KD, and he's placing a very bold castle here. I'm not sure about this one, man.
Yeah, there aren't even that many villagers, but at the same time, a few throwing axemen getting converted. The block printing on those monks is really helpful in terms of just keeping them a little bit safer from the onager fire, and... well, the castle is going to go up, but the 2 trebuchets here are likely to knock it down pretty soon, and yet somehow we have elite eagle warrior.
How? How is he affording this? It doesn't make any sense. How does he have this economy? It's crazy. But elite throwing axeman hype. So it will be throwing axeman and onager, and the shots continue to be amazing here from Valas. Say goodbye to your elite eagles here. And he also is making bombard cannons. So he's repairing his trebs. He's making bombard cannons. Ornlu, I'm not exaggerating when I say that in competitive Age of Empires 2, this is one of the more unique Arabia games we've ever seen in this matchup.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a really fun approach that Valas is taking. This is not your, sort of copy-paste Mayans Franks Arabia game that we've seen a lot of times. And Villese is going to need to tap out. Simply cannot trade efficiently against his opponent. I mean, really, this can all be summed up in the KD. 3.12 to 0.30.
I am so hyped that we just saw this because we've seen so many games where Franks could just go stable units. Like, oh, Mayans are making halbs. There was a game in the group stage in this event where you had Miguel make like 160 paladins up against Halb and Arbalest from Hera. He just kept doing it anyways because he's like, I'm Franks, man. I can spam castles and spam paladins and it's easy. But don't forget about the axemen.
Miguel.
And then don't forget about the castles. The other thing too, and I'm a little disappointed that the GG was called here. I think it was a good GG call. I think Villese with his game sense will know. I can't approach this anymore. I can't move out. I'm going to lose my position. But let's just say this game went on for another 5 to 10 minutes. What happens is those eagles probably go to raid, and Valas already has defensive castles everywhere. Like, that's just crazy, right? To have the forward presence, elite throwing axemen, upgrades. At this point, he's also getting bearded axe, which is a unique tech, which adds that extra range to those axemen. To do all that, to have the presence of mind for defense as well, to have the economy, and to be the underdog in this whole series, what a start. I'm pumped.
Yeah, this is looking really good. Even, like, Villese was doing just that. He was sending villagers to the south of the map to, create some barracks, try and make this a more mobility-centric game where the siege infantry is going to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But, as you're saying, Valas is dotting his I's and crossing his T's, and he will be taking Arabia in this best of 5.
Yeah, and for those of you that'll continue on with us with this whole series, I don't think we're going to see another game like this. We might see Onager, but all the other maps, it's going to go late. It's going to go very, very late. It's all closed maps. Both players seem to prefer that according to the draft. But yeah, I guess we do have to eventually close out this game, but it's so special and dear to my heart that I don't want to leave it. That was beautiful from Valas. Oh, man. And here we are. And maybe that wasn't an expected result, that first game, especially with Villese playing with Mayans, which was his first pick on the draft, by the way. So here we are, game 2, best of 5, round of 12. Valas has gone for the Berbers, and then Villese has gone for the Tatars, and I think this is the classic case of the counter pick, Ornlu. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because on paper, okay, Berbers, they do camels to counter cavalry and camel archers to counter cav archers. Those are the sorts of things Tatars do well. There is logic behind that, and that's the reason we see this matchup a lot. But at the same time, it's still a little bit slow for Berbers to get there, and we've seen Tatars, we've seen Mongols, we've even seen Huns able to pressure down Berbers before they can get to those proper counter units. So it's, I'd say, less of, the pure counter pick than it might seem on paper.
No, and I agree with you. I think there's some great time windows for the Tatars. And the main thing as well is there's just so much extra sheep on this map, right? So that's what both players are going for right now. But I wonder if Valas looked at the maps and then looked at the civs and said, wait a second. He's picked Tatars on this map before. It sometimes goes very late on this map. In fact, in most cases it does. What can I do if it goes late to counter this guy? And he's picked the Berbers. And I mean, this might be a unique opportunity for the Flaming Camel. I really hope we see some Flaming Camels. But assuming we don't see Flaming Camels, because no one seems to really try that, even though I think it could be ridiculously strong against enemy cavalry. But I think the Berbers are a solid choice here.
Well, I mean, Flaming Camels are very viable in BF.
True.
So,
yeah, true.
Villese, he is no stranger to the map himself. So, it's... Well, we'll have to see if it is a possibility, but still we're looking at a map where there's a lot of space for these, more mobility-centric civilizations to run around, notably Villese opening with the 3 on wood, and seems like a similar deal here for Valas.
Yeah, Valas has had an incredible start here. Like every small aspect of Dark Age has gone his way. He got the first initial hit on Villese when Villese wasn't paying attention. He then got the second and third. And also he was able to get sheep back home that Villese had found in the middle. So those are sheep that he's going to love. But obviously those sheep would have gone right over to the Tatar player's base otherwise. So he's just going to force Villese to kind of just lure him on home to his base. And again, like the hits are going to continue here, and you just don't want to give up scout HP here. And it could even get better for Valas if he were to continue to go to the right side. There's some sheep there as well. So not a bad
there's
Dark
actually
Age.
plenty of sheep left to take on the map.
Yep.
The scouts are busy fighting each other instead of looking for the sheep right now, but looks like they are going to disengage at this point. Of course, Tatars with the longer lasting sheep are really going to benefit from each additional one you can get.
Yeah, I think maybe Velez is going to luck out here. I guess he's going to push his deer. I'm not sure where he's going with that one villager, but that one villager might actually encounter 2 sheep. But looking at the maps, it's been an eventful Dark Age for Ghost Lake. It's always about the walls here because, we have seen some aggressive plays, but typically there's enough wood lines. There's enough reason to wall because you'll have so much food that we see that. So I think the map is more awkward for Valas, but he's going to try and make the most of how open Veleza's map might be as well as he goes for the early barracks. We actually see the exact same thing for Villese, but yeah, the part that's awkward for me is not so much the wood lines. It's not even the stones or the berries. It's just the gold, right? And both players are going to have the secondary and main gold be awkward. It's just I feel like Veleza's little 4-tile gold is just a little bit more protected back there.
Yeah, it's in the shelter of this nice forest. Whereas for Valas, it is all far, far away, and that might require a tower just to take the main gold in Feudal Age or even one of the side golds, and that's never something you want to do on a map that can just become that very sort of boomy passive game, as we've been saying. So we'll have to see what these guys have in store. Nobody clicking up to Feudal Age super fast. Looks like they are both going to be going up on 21 pop. Okay. And I don't think this will be for Men-at-Arms. Oh, okay, well, don't listen to me.
Well, I'm going to listen to you, Ornlu, but it's all right. It's one of those things. It's just the worst timing possible for any type of prediction, right? Though I am a little confused because you probably said I don't think it's going to be for Man-at-Arms because the guy's not going to gold. So
there was some inherent logic to what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily in love with the fact that he doesn't have any on gold right now. So clearly he's just forgotten that. We have actually seen some players. A couple people have been calling it like the French drush. Dude, I don't even know what's going on. Dal was confused by it last night as well. Some people are just making 2 militia and then going into archers, but they'll make the 2 militia like now, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think normally the player with 3 militia would just upgrade to man-at-arms and kill you. But I guess if you engage with those 2 militia right there, if the engagement happened there, it could have been perfect.
Yeah, just catching those militia as they are in transit to the base of Valas, but these walls will be down in time. Scout is on the other side, and it did take those hits from earlier.
Yeah, true.
So Vil is going to be able to ward it away for the time being. And immediately coming in with a spearman, actually.
The dead deer was blocking some of the wall in the south side there. It's still very exposed to the right, though, so the man-at-arms could get value. We still don't see a range yet for Valas, and Villese, he's kind of scouted it all, or at least expected some level of pressure, so he has just prepped it with palisade walls, and I doubt this attack's going to do anything for Valas.
I'm with you on that one. It seems a little odd for sure. We have big walls rushed up on the side
No
here.
way. No way. This is the Black Forest strats, right? Like trying to get those walls down before the pressure comes in. But this is just far too greedy. Like, you had the resources for an archer range. Yeah, you've got faster villagers, but this is opening up so much opportunity for your opponent to get kills. Valas hasn't lost anything yet, but I think that Villese is going to love the fact that he's able to do damage with this attack.
I mean, it's still a 3 men-at-arm opening. It's pretty expensive. You kind of need to get damage done, especially in this day and age. But, well, I mean, nothing has gone down yet, but the men-at-arms are just going to easily be able to go to those villagers that are all exposed on the right side. And as you were saying earlier, there isn't an archery range out yet. There is no way that these units are getting dealt with by things other than villagers in the near future.
Well, maybe he has a confidence in that. I mean, my thing is, he probably could use villagers to kill the man-at-arms, but what do you do when you have archers? Right? We already have ranged units out for Villese. This is a very standard opening. And I think archers is my real reason why you want to have that range. So villagers that have died, one villager just died there. Yeah, sure, your villagers are faster. It doesn't mean that you're not going to easily lose villagers. And I like the patience from Villese here. Obviously, he lost the first game. It was an incredible performance from his opponent. And he realizes that if it's 6 or 7 villagers, he'll lose his man-at-arms. So he's just going to let these things just linger here for as long as possible, it seems.
As one dies.
Yeah, as one dies, of course. But to be fair to him, he's got the archers coming across. So maybe what you could even do is attack the palisade wall with these man-at-arms from the inside, bring the archers behind it, and bust through pretty quickly.
Yep, I think that is exactly the right play. There are a couple of wolfies over here, but I think the archers shouldn't have too many issues with those.
He's just laughing because you could see exactly what Valas is trying to do there.
Yeah.
They tried to trap in the man-at-arms. These guys have a lot of respect for each other, but they also they're bold enough to try their strats every single time, right? Like the first game, Villese tried those 3 TCs, despite knowing how aggressive Valas can be. This is extremely bold from Valas, though. I mean, if he gets away with it, it's going to look epic. A couple blocks there, too, just to separate his villagers from the man-at-arms. So impressive.
As a Vikings fan, how do you feel about blocking?
We don't. Stop, okay? Stop. Are you a Lions fan? Are you?
No, I'm from Chicago, man.
Oh, I got it wrong. I was like, you're one of those. Sorry. Yeah, I was
one of those
like
Western people.
Well, yeah. Listen, I mean, I prefer that a Bears fan be talking trash to me than anyone else in the division. So it's all good.
Sorry, I had.
It's all right. I knew something was gonna come today. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think all things considered, this hasn't been completely horrible for Valas. I think his greed is, I don't want to say it's paid off, but it hasn't killed him, He's still in the game. He's still going to need more skirmishers, that's for sure. And he's now going to stone, which has me excited for camel archers, though I still have to question whether or not that's realistic here.
Yeah, and it's again one of those situations, kind of like what was happening with Villese in the last game, where like, okay, it's not great for Valas, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah,
You know,
agreed.
he's still in a very competitive position. Gold income is going to be a little bit tricky as he has access to none right now.
Yeah, and
But maybe, I was going to say, he could use the market to sell some stone, get the castle age, and then drop a castle on one of those golds.
yeah, and because of this aggression and because he doesn't have vision on the map, he hasn't tried to wall up the north, but that to me feels like a pretty easy area to wall up. And then you could conveniently take gold. And just like we saw in the first game, like, Villese is completely happy just to apply some pressure, not finish you off in feudal, and then try and finish you off in castle. And while I associate early town centers with Villese more than maybe anyone, I think this is also just asking for a forward siege workshop on this hill.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's got all of that early Castle Age timing advantage with his civilization. The free thumb ring is just super powerful in applying that early Castle Age pressure. You can even mix in some cavalry units as well, even some step lancers possibly.
Yep.
And this is a really strong position you can take tactically on the map. There's a wood line right here. There's some farms. Stone is quite exposed. And if I'm Villese, I wouldn't want to give this up without a fight.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, he is the type of guy, though, where if he's just faster to Castle Age, he uses crossbowman, he pushes back all your feudal age skirms, and then he booms. So that's his thing. But I guess, you know, maybe now the forward siege workshop's kind of leaving his mind because the skirmishers are chasing him down. Good job from Valas. Again, I've seen enough games of this map where I say I have to disagree with the strategy, right? I think if he goes man-at-arms into his own range, it's a better situation for him now. He's probably been on gold. You know, he probably would have walls up in these positions. But I'm excited for the future of this game because he's still heavy on stone. Camel Archer is maybe the unit that you think of first and foremost when you think Berbers against Tatars. So, you know, the guy who went Onager Axeman in game 1, I've got to believe that maybe he can go for Camel Archer's Mangonel or something in game 2.
I mean, I'm always down for Camel Archers. They're just such a fun unit. But, well, we have the stable out. One Scout Cavalry as well. Could easily mix in some Step Lancers or Knights, I guess, if you're feeling boring.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, Valas is going to be able to drop the castle and go for the Camel Archers, almost certainly.
I mean, I should mention, no double bid axe yet for Villese. That is a big, big upgrade to miss. And normally you make it to Castle Age, you go to click Bowsaw, the Castle Age would upgrade, and then you're like, oh crap, I didn't have the Feudal Age one, and you get it. He hasn't done either, so again, if Valas holds, yeah, maybe it could be okay. Remember, he stole all the sheep from Tatars early. He's got lots of wood and food in the bank. I'm currently thinking right now he wants to maybe even consider some Genitors. I could see it because he has no gold access, but he's got to fall back for now. He adds a stone wall and a house, just more damage control from Valas.
And this is still nice for Villese because this pressure ensures that, okay, Valas isn't getting a castle up in the area that he would want to.
Yeah.
At least not, going to be protecting a gold that's going to be feeling super safe. Although, Vill's going to be swerving to the left.
I think
thinking to drop a castle on the left.
I think he's gonna go 3 TCs. I think he's really concerned that these crossbowmen are gonna run into the back. Okay, never mind. Wait a second. He TCs the gold in the wood. I like that. Yeah, he's gonna drop the TC there as well. This is probably the right play because you can still make that castle. It's just, you have to wait on that castle for the time being. Oh man.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Valas. It's tough in the moment. Pull the front villagers side to side for a second. Side to side, yeah, just try, because you don't know which one's being attacked. And he still lost 5 villagers in this game. It's still not pretty, but he does have 3 town centers. He does have access to gold now. And he could make a castle on that hill. Oh, he's going to place it there!
I think this is the safer play. I feel like if you have all of these farms here that are super exposed, you got to go with the castle that protects more of your eco. Yes, there are crossbowmen right here, but I feel like that's just one of those risks you need to take if you actually want to be in a position where you can win this game, because beyond this, Villese is adding in the second TC. His eco has been pretty much untouched this game, but yeah, obviously, it's still a risky castle.
Yeah, oh man. I mean, the whole game has just been nothing but risk, and that castle's denied at 68%. I mean, I gotta give a lot of credit to Villese. He opened up this game with map presence, right? The militia, the archers, just nonstop aggression. And then, having broken in, he didn't waste any time trying to loop back to the front. He noticed that castle, and he got here faster than Valas expected him to. It is still possible that this castle goes up, because there are elite skirmishers here for Valas. And he's still in this game, but the reality is you've lost 9 villagers, and your eco has not been set up in a way to really do anything long-term. Normally, I would say that Villese is. However, he doesn't have double bid-axe. So as long as he gets that and a couple other eco upgrades, I'll get excited about it.
Well, again, Valas is making the best out of his situation. The knights are to the left. He's trading skirmishers for crossbowmen on the right. And if enough of those crossbowmen go down, then we're looking at a situation where villagers can just sort of hop into the TC to avoid the knights.
Yep.
And the castle goes up.
Yep. We'll see. I mean, the knights are out of position. They're now underneath the TC. It's obviously good to know that there's a TC there. We still are talking about skirmishers that are not in high enough number and not with full armor. And so Villese has just been able to push back those skirms for now. Also, idle time, 43 minutes total versus 8 minutes. And finally, double bid-axe comes in. There you go. But yeah, maybe getting closer for this castle to finish. I mean, maybe... I like how Valas isn't tossing away more villagers. I think he's just being patient enough. I also like how it's not like he has 15 villagers waiting in the TC. It's actually only 1. So the rest of his eco is working.
And here come the Vills. Enough of the crossbowmen have fallen to make this castle happen. And again, Valas is doing a pretty darn good job of controlling the skirmishers and the villagers, just ensuring at least the minimal amount of losses given the situation. And castle's going to go up, and Valas can actually already afford a second one.
Yeah, that's funny. That's where all those villagers were. Do you just move out and do you drop it in front of your gold? Because that would be a great spot too. Or do you wait and think, oh, maybe if I take map control, I could push. But no, he's just going to... I like this. Yeah. You really want Camel Archer production anyways, and you need to protect that golden stone. So double castle there makes a lot of sense for me. And now I just want to take a quick glance back at Valese's eco. He's killed 11 villagers. And apart from missing the eco upgrades, I think it looks good, right? He's got a lot on food. He definitely needs to seed more farms here. The 43 on wood and not having more than 100 wood in the bank, though, does come back to not having his wood upgrade. But what do you make, dude? What do you make if you're Villese as the Tatars from here?
It's tricky. I mean, you need to find something that your opponent isn't going to be readily able to counter.
Yeah.
The issue is Valas is kind of rushing to sort of the end-all, be-all unit in this matchup, in the Camel Archer. So I feel like you can't go Cav Archers here because your opponent's already got the Camel Archer production, so that window where you can overwhelm them with Cav Archers is already kind of closed. So it feels like something stable-oriented or Keshik-oriented.
Yeah, and this is going to be a frustrating find, right? He moves forward thinking, I have to apply some pressure. It's going to be tough for him to get the numbers up. And then he sees the second castle, and he's probably like, oh, God. Like, I lost game 1, and now there's 2 castles from Berbers. And then he's also clicking Bosal, and he's probably like, I mean, if his brain works like my brain works, and I guarantee you it doesn't, because I think too much when I play, but he's probably, all the bad thoughts are coming into his brain right now. Oh.
Well, we have an archery range on the way. This could be for skirmishers, and if you're thinking, okay, I have a better eco, I can just rely on skirmishers to defend myself against the Camel Archers, and then sort of make it to Imperial Age and make that transition later on. Okay, that's fine, but well, there's still a lot of army barreling down at your front door. That gold is just as exposed for Villese as it is for Valas.
Yep. This is going to be tough. Now, I have to credit Valas for something. If you look at his vision, he used his scout. It just died a moment ago in the woodline of Villese, but he had been using that scout to scout the rest of the map. So he's got the long-term unit choice, but he also sees the neutral golds in the north and south. And I like the priority from him there. I also like the Bloodlines upgrade. I like how he's catching up on both of his Castle Age Wood and Farm upgrades. Also dropping the Monastery now, Ornlu, so he can grab relics. And this is just a player who showed his late game to be able to come back and make it to the playoffs in the first place. After the first 3 weeks of the group stage in TTL, we said, yeah, Valas is probably relegated. And here he is. And what a dream scenario for him. I almost feel like it shouldn't be possible. Like, if I ever try the crap that he's tried in this game, I get destroyed. That shouldn't be a thing, but how many times have we seen great players in Age of Empires 2 play defense until their late game prowess begins? So, This is
well,
crazy.
we saw Viper do it and win every tournament for like a decade.
Yeah. Not quite as bold, though. Not quite as bold as this game. I know the meta was different back then, too, but yeah, that was pretty insane. But yeah, I like the decision here from Villese. I also love the 4th town center position and timing towards the south. Elite Skirm is absolutely something he wants to incorporate, and I think the decision's fine. I think my worry now just becomes, what if Valas doesn't engage against you? What if Valas says, oh, you have too many Elite Skirms? Great, enjoy that. I'm just going to wait till Imp and then switch into Hussar. And I think it's the Hussar switch that would then force some bigger questions for the Tatars. I guess they do have, Halberdier, but their halbs are notoriously weak due to the lack of armor upgrades too. So there's lots of big question marks in the long term. Villese does click up to Imp though, Ornlu.
Yeah, and that's what I was seeing is that, okay, with an Imp timing advantage, he's got 20 Vills mining stone. He'll be able to get a castle, especially if you can get that forward, start to get a little edge in the Treb War. Then I think we were cooking as far as to figuring out how to deal with this Berber late game. But I mean, right now, Camel Archers coming in, they have a ton of upgrades. They're only missing Thumb Ring right now.
Yeah.
And Husbandry. But yeah, they're just such a strong unit.
Yeah, interesting castle spot too. He actually had to like cut through that wood line to place it. I guess his army's controlling the other areas. Yes, now we have another castle for him in between town centers. Very well defended here is Villese. And we could see Camel Archer Onager. I see the Siege Workshop, and I don't even think Mangonel. I think we could see Onager in the long run from Valas.
Again, Tadar is not a civ with access to Bombard Cannon or Redemption Monks, so not the easiest thing for them to counter necessarily. But yeah, as I was thinking, the castles are placed very defensively. I mean, they're in great defensive positions, but this to me screams, I want to go for my unique unit, and Keshiks are super powerful, super cheap, able to just trade efficiently versus a lot of things, and I think that will include Camel Archers. If you can get the jump on them, having that faster movement speed compared to a knight is really helpful.
Pretty crazy confidence right now from Valas to continue to take these fights. These skirms have full Castle Age upgrades. Full armor, full attack, and ballistics. So yeah, some skirms are dying, but you're also losing some of your Camel Archer mass. But I don't know. Like, I guess obviously if he falls back here, I'll like it a little bit more. But like this fight in particular, not a big fan of. Probably didn't realize how bad it was. And he just wanted to maybe hold that position so he could drop a castle of his own. That'll be his 3rd castle this game. Big shot here needed for Valas possibly. And he gets it. That's a huge shot on those skirmishers.
Yeah, gets a few kills right there. Certainly helpful. But Villese is an Imperial Age, getting some relevant upgrades for those skirmishers. Keshik numbers are slowly starting to climb. Nobody has any relics yet, interestingly, but even Kazbah coming in can really help just get those Camel Archer numbers to where you want them to be even faster.
Look what Valas is doing in the north, sorry. He is getting a relic there, by the way, but he's got both the extra stones. It's pretty crazy just to like dash across the map. I love the outposts, obviously, but it's very rare to see the outposts and then see that many villagers on stone. And that's a big, big talking point in this matchup. It's also just the map in general. If you've seen Ghost late games, defensive castles are always so important.
Yeah, and it's just, as we've been saying, Valas is setting himself up so well for the long run. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is him not picking up relics sooner.
Yeah.
But in terms of just knowing where the resources are on the map with the earlier scouting, able to take those earlier than his opponent, and then just having that confidence knowing that my civ is probably better than yours in the post-Imperial Age. And that's sort of, I feel, been the crux of how he's been approaching this one with his much more unorthodox style, shall we say.
Now, here's the deal. This imp time from Villese is insane. He also fully recognizes how good the Berber late game is. He's got 28 skirms that'll be fully upgraded in about 30 seconds. He's got the Trebs already. And just now, Valas has hit the Imperial Age. And you know, Valas was maybe considering Onager. He's trying to go through the things in his head of what he could do. But he might not have the time now. He has added stables to go heavy camel. But look at his blacksmith upgrades. He doesn't have the blacksmith upgrades for camels to be that strong in this moment. So I think this is the perfect opening to imp for Villese. Had he tried to take the rest of the map, it might not have been the best play. So he's just trying to force the issue right like he was in the early game.
Yeah, and this is what I was saying right at the start when it came to the Civ matchup. There are timings that you can hit when your opponent, as Berbers, won't necessarily have the counters ready. Like, yes, that camel transition is incoming, but it's still a gold unit. You have a lot of expensive upgrades to go for. And with those castles under a lot of threat, it's going to be difficult to make sure that even as the game continues to go on, that you'll have those camel archers as needed.
Look at this. He's actually... This is interesting. Villese wants to take the repair villagers because I think he's expecting bomber cannon defense, and he doesn't want the castle to be up when the bomber cannons come out. This is kind of rare. You don't see this all the time. He could also lose all of his skirmishers, but that's the reasoning for this. He wants that castle down.
He certainly does, but the camels are going to be inbound. They only have the +2 defense right now, but there are 5 trebuchets here that need to be sniped, and the castle falls no matter what, and the Keshik numbers are steadily climbing.
Got 21 camel archers, 14 camels. We've got 24 Keshiks, 20 skirmishers, plus the 5 trebuchets. Seems like Villese just has just enough here to continue this push. Let's see if he can take this fight, though. This should be the best fight that Valas could ask for.
Oh, yeah, that should be really good for him. Heavy camels in the front, camel archers behind. Even the mangonels able to chip away and deal some damage, and yet the army numbers are looking pretty good still for Villese, just continuing to churn out those units. Those Keshiks are so cheap. The camels are falling, and importantly, camels with no native pierce armor are still taking, what is that, 5 damage a hit from skirmishers?
Yeah.
And it's not too impressive, and the Keshiks are just absolutely overrunning the army here of Valas as Villese looking to strike right back in game number 2.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, he's also able to deny some of that stone in the north. He's going to place a castle foundation near that gold. And this will be the second castle he's taken out, but there's no real sign that it's not going to be lead to like 3rd and 4th, right? Because the other 2 are still in that same position. And it's just the timing on the upgrades. Keshik carrying their own weight here. And there was a consistency of production there. Valas it stopped making camel archers because he was trying to go for the heavy camel. And I don't blame him, right? He's under pressure, but this might be tough to come back from now. I think if you're not at about 50 army right now as the Berbers, considering you don't have a lead camel archer, considering, some upgrades you're late on, I think you're going to just continue to lose ground.
Yeah, and that is exactly what's happening. There is a little bit of a castle war to the north. Villagers trying to shank the other villagers to delay the castle, but it still seems like maybe Villese has a bit of an edge with more vills coming forward, but even so, the army is just streaming forward to the south. A forward castle in the south for Villese, and those trebs just going to be trundling to the north as needed.
Yep, and now you can take some of this gold. You also have another forward production building for your Keshiks. A good position there. Both castles will go up, so I guess they won't be able to take that gold for the time being, these 2 players. But I'm not sure if the game's going to go on that long, Ornlu. It's still 70 army for Villese. We know exactly what Valas was going for with his civ choice, but he just hasn't been able to get the unit numbers up. He's actually making petards in the northern castle, which is kind of fun to see. But that might be the only castle he has soon.
Yeah, that one's about to go down. That was his first castles. There's still 2 trebuchets working away. The trebs are missing some upgrades, missing siege engineers and, I guess, Timurid siegecraft. But, I mean, we're looking at 47 fully upgraded Keshiks right now. And, I mean, sure, Berber camels are cheap, but you just don't have the numbers of them right now, as the Keshiks are just flooding across the Ghost Lake.
Yeah, seriously. And the numbers just continue to plummet for Valas. Obviously, the gold right behind this is something he needs for those numbers. The stables as well. All these buildings should end up going down. And it's the Keshik that continues to dominate. And Villese responds. And what a classy, classy victory this was. Because after Valas got his 2 castles up, it was really beginning to look like Valas was in his dream spot. He had vision on the northern stones. He was working to get relics, But I think the key was just that imp timing. And maybe Valas will regret not using the market to get imp a little bit faster. Maybe he'll regret getting the armor upgrades that he ended up committing to for the camel archers. I know at least the first one was for the skirmishers, but just that imp timing seemed like it made such a big difference, because I think the camel archer and heavy camel is better and should beat elite Keshik and skirmisher. It's just all about the timing and the numbers there.
Exactly, and that's what we were saying, is Tatar, they need to exploit those timings where Berbers are making those more awkward transitions. They don't have any real eco bonus to help them out in that regard. And yeah, I mean, Villese able to pull that one back and hit those timings as needed. And we've got a series on our hands here.
Yeah, we seriously do. And also, this is the second time we've seen Elite Keshik used by Villese on this map. And every time I see it, I begin to think, holy crap, that unit is really underrated. Arguably in need of a nerf. Like, it's 60 food.
Don't nerf my Keshiks, man. I love this unit.
It's 60 food and 40 gold for one of them. The elite version is 11 plus 4, so that's not that crazy. 7 pierce armor, 160 HP. And you earn some gold when you fight with them. Granted, that's, just a small trickle, but a small trickle adds up with relics. So I'm sure it could add up into fights
paladins.
too. They are faster than paladins? What?
Yeah, 1.4 movement speed, same as a cav archer.
Yeah, and then, Tatars, they do have that awkward window sometimes, right? Because they don't get Arbalest, and oftentimes you're seeing a lot of crossbowmen in the mid game. But yeah, every time I see this Ketchik, I'm just like, whoa, how's that unit not dead yet? That was another instance of it, though obviously the numbers was so important there. So we have ourselves a series, scores 1-1, very close games, and we'll see the games get progressively longer, I guess. That was a bit longer than the first one, possibly, but we will have Regicide Fortress and Arena as Valas' home maps. And here we are, game number 3 in a best-of-5 round of 12. And I honestly, Ornlu, I thought Valas was going to put up a fight today. I didn't think it was going to be this good. This is going to be real with you. I was thinking 3-1 Villese. Thought Valas would get Regicide Fortress or Arena, and that Villese would maybe ban the other ones, and then Villese would win 3-1 on more open maps. The map pool that we have, though, is a lot more closed than I expected. It seems like both players welcome the closed maps, so maps after this will be Fortified Clearing and then Arena. So, anyways, we've got the Cumans for Villese, and we've got the Bengalis for Valas, and there's not the longest list of civilizations that have been picked or dominant on this map, but Bengalis and Cumans are near the top.
Oh yeah, it just comes to both civs work so well in these more high eco scenarios. Bengali's going to be getting around 4 villagers ahead and to the castle age quickly, and then you just have such a powerful late game with the civ, and then Cumans with their 2 TC boom, when you can click up on 16 pop with Cumans and you're completely surrounded by stone walls, it just feels quite good. And then even in the late game, compared to like other closed maps, like late game Regicide Fortress is not too dissimilar from Arabia, and you can really utilize that mobility to take games.
Yeah. And of course it is Regicide, so if the kings end up going down, you will be defeated. So be very careful where you scout with your king. We've seen instances of players running directly into castles. So don't want to do that. I once did that. I just didn't lose my king, thankfully, but I lost some HP, so it is possible. Yeah, the Cuman build is another one that's all about timing. And timing is the discussion that we're having more and more as casters these days in general. Yeah. But, Cumans, they probably are just not going to really be able to compete with Bengalis in a standard game. But what they can do is go for that second town center in feudal. And they'll be booming on 2 TCs for a time. They gain a Vill lead. Valas will eventually be working to spend resources to catch up with those villagers. But then the difference is when the Cumans make it to castle, they've got so much food. And it all comes down to what you want to do with that food. Some people will spend that food and go for a 3rd and 4th town center on more villagers. And then the thing that I've been most impressed with the Cumans has been the fast imp timings, which relies on a little bit of map control, of course, with the Keshiks. So we'll see exactly what Villese wants to do. For Valas, like you said, there's not a lot you can really do wrong. When you make it to feudal, +2 vills. Make it to castle, +2 vills. Your monks are armored, so you can get the relics. The Wrath is a decent, unique unit to fight for map control. It's just all that before we talk about the late game and the potential of Elephant Archers, which I think is Elephant Archer Halb is not something the humans have a great answer to. It's all pretty strong.
Oh yeah, I think that in general, this is a matchup where Bengalis don't really want to focus on timings. It's more about absorbing pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
And with Villese, you do want, I think, leverage maybe going for that 2 TC fast Imperial Age play, build a second castle forward, make some Kipchoks at home.
Yeah.
And, well, we'll see.
My biggest concern with the Kipchak is it's good because of its fire rate and how much, damage it can do quickly. It has always taken a lot of damage. And I feel like the Ratha has so much HP that if Valas is booming and controls the middle of the map with 5 to 6 Ratha, that far too many Kipchaks are going to be needed to be able to take that middle control to get the timing for the second castle down. But I don't know. I haven't actually seen Kipchaks and Ratha fight very frequently. I think we maybe saw this matchup once before, but I guess it would depend on upgrades and micro and maybe even a couple conversions here or there as well.
Yeah, I mean, they are both cav archery units, but the Ratha just going to be slower.
Did you see that, by the way? Did you see that scout fight?
Yeah.
That's the most annoying thing ever. Vilese's scout was like 2.5 tiles away when he got that hit. I know the attack animation doesn't necessarily match the sound, but like I don't know. It happens. It's not new. It's not a bug, but I don't know if it's ever something that can be addressed. But like Vilese's scout was literally just standing there, and the other scout ran away and still got hit by, I don't know, a thrown mallet or something.
Mallet?
I don't know. What are they holding, these scouts?
They're holding swords.
No, it doesn't sound like a sword, bro.
It sounds like a wooden sword. It's definitely
a wooden sword. It's a wooden mallet. Yeah, okay, I look at it now, it's a sword. It doesn't look like it when they swing it. Next time you see the scout swing it, it looks different than a sword.
All right, it'll just turn into like a little rubber hammer.
Yeah, it doesn't. It sounds like you're smacking somebody with a piece of wood. Not even, like a piece of plastic.
That's an experience you've had often.
Not quite. Well, maybe. I don't know. Oh, jeez. Well, I gotta love the temptation here. You have the king in the forward tower. I guess you don't have any defensive towers if you're Valas, but like you're tempting your opponent to come snipe that king, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's something you need to keep in mind. I mean, we have seen king snipes decide games, not even in running into a castle case, but just deciding games via running in with units in the late game and sniping kings. But Valas now reaching the castle age, and this is where the strategy opens up a little bit on this map. You can go for more, aggressive play. You can go for scouts. You can go for your unique unit and monks. Valas, no, he's taking the Ornlu approach. Just add TCs, make villagers.
Yeah, I think you can get away with delaying the monastery quite easily in this situation. It's because your opponent is not going to have the monasteries fast because they're going to be in feudal age longer. However, we did have Villese add a stable, so at the very least he's going to add scouts. Probably not now. He probably wants to click up to castle age first, but that is an interesting addition. But he's also on stone here, so I actually think that it might not just be scouts to be able to kill monks, but because he's slightly concerned that the kip checks wouldn't be enough for mid-game map control, that he might actually make a combination of kip checks with either a step lancer or a knight or two. Again, a little risky when there's monks out there, but just needs more because the whole point of the build is to fast imp with a forward castle, and these generations of Regicide Fortress, the castles are always forward. So if you see their walls, you will know I can drop my castle there, maybe next to that 4-tile gold, and that's the perfect spot to launch with trebuchets.
Yep, you can even maybe get it on the hill if you just want to play a little bit more, I guess, map control oriented, not just try and go for the win right there. But there are different ways you can approach it, and I'm still not 100% convinced that Villese is going to be going for that fast imp approach. I think it is more likely than not, but Valas himself now just dropping down the monastery, and I see no reason that he is going to do anything other than just sit on his butt until he gets to a bunch of elephant archers.
Yeah, agreed. And I guess that's like the whole thing I keep coming back to. If it's so good for the Megalis to, quote, sit on your butt and make elephant archers, then you gotta like hit them before they can get to those elephant archers. Because we've seen instances, I think it was Draken versus Backed. I know that maybe there's other examples too. But we've seen instances where people have tried to go for the elephant archers with the Bengalis, and they just aren't ready yet. They don't have the economy yet. And elephant archers either feel really bad and underwhelming, or really, really good. There's really no in between with the unit. But I mean, a few extra scouts isn't going to delay your imp timing that much. What it will do is allow you to compete for the relics, which you know the Bengalis will be going for. And Villese has been very active. He's at 50 Vils. Crazy that he was on a 2 TC boom. And he's already been surpassed by the Bengali player on 3 TCs.
Well, Bengali Eco is pretty darn strong in these closed map games. You have a 4th TC now coming in for Valas. Really taking the heavy eco approach with the Civ. And for the part of Villese, he's now adding in some Kipchoks. He already has the light cav upgrade, I guess, now in.
Mm-hmm.
This does seem more and more like, okay, I really do want to get to Imperial Age pretty quickly. Going with the forward castle soon as well. And I do think that's just overall the best approach on this map.
It all comes
for these
down to,
statistics.
we'll know what he wants to do based on if he adds the third town center. But it almost feels like he would have added that third town center already if he were to want to go for that approach, because you do fall behind further and further with villagers. Great job from Valas, by the way. He added one Ratha. He's been very active with his starting scout. You got one relic already, but I really like the positioning of that TC on the right side. And wow, this is something I didn't expect. He's even placing a gate and a house there because he knows units could run underneath that TC later on otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's just a nice little move.
Ooh.
Make sure that nothing too wild happens. Like Cav are going to open the gate, but as the meme goes, you then close the gate.
Yeah. Well, Bloodline's on the way. That benefits the light cav, but it definitely is needed for the Kipchek. The Kipchek only has 40 HP otherwise, so here they come. Here come the villagers. And this is probably the most important stage of this game, is if conversions come in for Valas and he's able to deny this castle, he will have a massive lead.
Well, Light Cav able to get the kills on those monks, and that is exactly what Villese is looking for. Ratha's, well, being kind of awkward, as they so often tend to be. And right, like we were saying earlier, Castle could be going in on the gold right here, even on the hill.
Actually, don't love this castle. I was hoping it would be a bit closer because your trebuchets will have to be further forward and not underneath your castle fire when you're imp. But still, it is in the area of the map that Villese would have wanted. He obviously needs to be a little bit concerned that maybe the Kipcheks aren't good enough against the Ratha, if Ratha's good upgrades or whatever. But even look at this. Okay, Valas gets Town Watch. He just knows. He just knows that this is all for a forward castle, even though he doesn't see it. And let's see if Town Watch actually helps him. He gets more vision. He doesn't actually see the castle, funnily enough.
Yeah. It's because he placed it in that little bit of a safer spot, T90.
Yeah, it's true. Well, now it's seen. But, you know, it does, back to my point, like, you still need an answer if you're Valas to kill the Trebs. And I just don't know if you have that answer, even though the castle isn't necessarily fully protecting it.
T90, tell me your opinion of the mining camp placed to the west of Valas' base.
I thought you were going to say, tell me your opinion on Bengalis or blah, blah, blah. And I was going to say, I'll give you my opinion on the mining camp. So it's funny you said that.
No, we're just that in sync. We focus on the important things.
We really do. I mean, it's just so funny, this game, man. This game will produce some hilarious moments from time to time. And I mean, I guess opening a hole in the wall has made it look fine.
Yeah.
But
it's not fun for me.
Oh, another castle for Villese. Okay, so maybe that's what he was thinking. The initial castle is just for good production. This castle's, it's just so perfect. Oh, man. And if he can actually afford to make Trebs from these two forward castles, Valas is going to struggle greatly.
Yeah, I mean, the Ratha numbers are still fairly low. The Kipchoks are cheaper than them. And Imp is going to be in around 30 seconds for Villese. Yes, he's behind in Vills at this point, but he's been able to have more Vills working longer. And this is going to be a tough defense right now for Valas. And it's really going to be where the game hinges, as he is able to click to an Imp, but he's around an entire Imperial Age research time behind his opponent.
I do like a couple of the things that Valas is doing. He's going to prep houses in the back of his base because he knows he could lose castles. He idled his TC slightly there for a second just so he could click up the Imp a little bit faster. His next castle's further away. He also has pretty good stone coverage, so he's really heavy on the stone that's right underneath this castle. He's going to have to leave that soon. But he's taking as much as he can right now while also protecting the other one, so that's good. But we should mention it's 2 relics to... It's about to be 3, actually, for Villese versus the 2 from Valas. And now Valas is also sending his king to the very north. He doesn't want to be in that tower any longer. And so that king will be out in the open. I don't know if you, like, wall it up at all. Because I guess if your opponent gets there, you're probably dead anyways. But it's worth thinking about.
Oh, well, Valas is going for pikes, so it does seem like Rathas are going to be his game plan. And they should be trading pretty well versus the Kipchoks, even when more upgrades come in. It's not a matchup I've seen a ton when both units have had a lot of upgrades.
This
But
is tricky.
right now, it's all about that Treb momentum.
Yeah, Treb momentum and Kipcheks are a really good unit for the stats that they provide. We do see elite kip check on occasion, but really it's just about good old Castle Age kip checks with chemistry and no bracers available for humans. So, by the way, the Imp TC is the safe TC for Valas in the north. Valas abandons that TC. And you could tell Villese is just thinking, let's do more of this. I'd like to see him bring his villagers forward, drop another castle, and just continue to take these types of fights. But this is what I said before. I'm not actually sure how good kip checks are against Ratha.
I mean, it's 125 HP right now for the unit.
Yeah.
Their armor isn't super high, but at least they have their thumb ring equivalent more or less in.
Chemistry's in. Ballistics wasn't, so that could have played its role. And Villese will have stone for another TC if he buys it. He's actually not mining any stone right now. He's got 26 kip checks. It's 14 Ratha right now for Valas, who's going to complete Bracer. Made a second blacksmith so we could get the armor upgrade. But he's got to somehow push this back because this is only going to get worse and worse. He's got the Vil lead, but what does that mean?
Nothing to a clown.
That's fair. I honestly, I think he has the eco to go skirms. I'm surprised he hasn't added a couple ranges here.
Yeah. I feel like maybe he's prioritizing on the Ratha a little too much. I mean, he can't make Trebs and Rathas at the same time, and feels like you need some amount of Trebuchets right here because he currently got 5 for Villese. It's 35 army to 16. The Kip Chocks, they don't have amazing upgrades, but they don't need that many upgrades, as we were saying, to get some damage done. And Elite Ratha is on the way.
Yeah, and it's
Valas
also
is really pinning his hopes on the unit.
And the Kip Check's also just so cheap. You could just make them so easily. I guess you don't need as many upgrades too. There's different aspects to it, but okay. We not only do we have Elite Ratha, but he's researching forging. So if he goes into melee mode, he does a little bit more attack there. That's interesting.
Yeah, that will be the case, and Rathas with pikes do have a pretty quick fire rate.
They're in melee mode.
And here they come, going to be swinging away with their big, broad swords. This doesn't feel like it's going to be enough.
No, I mean, it's an awkward fight, right? Because the Kip Checks don't do a ton of damage, but there's just so many of them, and they fire so quickly here. And the Trebs are still there. That's the key. So Valas is full committed towards a unit that he needs the castles for. And the Trebs are still firing on that castle. He's sinking more and more stone into the repairs. And there's still 30-plus Kip Checks here for Villese as he completes another castle, which allows him to take more stone, which allows him to hold the position that can take this game. This is just that beautiful timing with the humans. And if this works, we'll now have seen it work against the Chinese, seen as the best Regicide Fortress Civ for who knows how long. And now the Bengalis, which is like the new age best Regicide Fortress civilization. That was a well-executed push there from Villese, and he's up 2-1.
Yep. Lost the first game to some really nice play from Valas, but able to pull it back on Ghost Lake and able to just, as you're saying, execute this beautiful timing with humans on RF. And we have to wonder if Valas maybe needed to go for skirmishers or elephant archers or, units that didn't require a castle when your opponent is specifically going for a ton of trebuchets.
Yep.
Because he had the eco, but just couldn't really get to the army numbers he needed.
I honestly, I've been thinking about this because I have a lot of belief in the humans in certain situations. I actually think people could be picking the humans more frequently on Arena and doing this. But I'm trying to think what civilizations stop this, right? And I think the civilizations that stop this are civilizations that have a unique unit that they can mass that could beat the Kip Checks in the mid game, but also have a sizable economy. And it's just really tricky because the Kip Check, a lot of people like to crap on the Kip Check, but it's really cheap and really good for the time that you need to take that map control. Chinese with their Chukunu, I'm not so convinced that unit's actually better than the Kip Check. It's slower. It might have 8 base attack, but the fire rate is really slow too. The Ratha here didn't seem like it was going to be enough. So, I mean, you might need to go further down the list, Ornlu. Maybe you need to think about conks with Spanish and completely change your approach. Maybe you need to go like Burgundians and go for like the Coustier or something. I like the strat. That's all I'm trying to say. I think it's really hard to figure out. And I think Villese executed on it perfectly. Not only the push, but getting 4 relics was really impressive from him.
Yeah, I mean, he did everything he needed to do to win that game. Investing in the light cap, making sure that this timing hits. There is no way that due to like unfortunate conversion luck or getting a unit caught out of position, that he would lose that momentum, because that is exactly how. I mean, we could say that it is only way Villese could win the game, and that is, I mean, exactly how he was able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And people might need to reassess their approach in dealing with this 2TC fast imp timing.
Yeah, certainly. And that approach might even be added to the ban list if you don't think you're comfortable with it. The cool thing for the remainder of this series, I saw someone talking about it, was just like, we're going to see a lot more civilizations on some of these closed maps over the, what we hope is 2 more games, but obviously could be 1 more game if Villese wins. Because we had the Poles and the Burgundians and all these civilizations banned out. But good game there. Resources collected, I just wanted to check. Valas did collect more. Collected about 3,000 more resources, but he was really low on gold. Obviously, the extra food and wood didn't really do much for him there either. We're here, and again, ladies and gents, finally, after all these games on Arena where people pick the Poles and the Burgundians and the Bohemians and the Turks, we've got the Teutons! And we did have to see those other civilizations banned out in the draft. We did have to make it to a best of 5, which means more civilizations were played. But Ornlu, I've been saying for the last couple of months, it really says something about the present Arena balance if Teutons aren't a must-pick for Arena, right? This civilization's got so many bonuses for it. Happy to see it. And then we've got the classic Britons pick on the other side, something we've seen a little bit more, and could potentially even be seen as a little bit of a counter.
Yeah, and I mean, Teutons, they don't love that heavy range focus. You know, they have all the extra melee armor on their units. They'd rather just take those more straight-up fights. Britain certainly have an economy that can keep up with Teutons. But man, this matchup, it feels like a, 2020 Arena matchup.
Yeah,
or even when we were really seeing the Arena meta stabilize as more people were playing it in DE.
Yeah, I mean, even just like, 2015, right? Like, these civs have been around a long time.
2015, you're watching Mayans and Spanish 1TC castle drop each other.
Oh, man.
That's when you see Eddie reign supreme.
Yeah, there were so many crazy monk plays back then. We didn't really see booming be the approach back in those days on Arena. But, I the last time I saw this matchup was actually Season 1 of Titans League, and it was MBL versus Nikov. Wait. No. Hold on. Give me a second. My brain is loading. The hamster's running much faster on the wheel. No. It wasn't that. It was MBL versus, somebody else in group stage. And MBL was Teutons versus Britons. And he went Crenellation Castles and Trebs in order to stop Arbalest. So he had to, get the castles down. So he didn't try Siege. He didn't try Paladins. And I'll be curious to see what Villese does here, because that would be my worry. Like you said, all your bonuses is infantry and cavalry. The Teuton cavalry is very slow. And while the Siege is strong, it still can be outranged by archers with good micros. So you're going to have to be creative, I guess, to stop those Briton archers from raining their arrows down from a mile away.
Yeah, and I think Crenellation Castles are going to be a really important part of that. You still have to worry about Warwolf Trebs, and I mean, it's one of the reasons that I think Britons are just a really strong civ in this matchup. But at the same time, Teutons have options.
Yeah.
And they can really, slowly creep out across the map. You can have those bombard cannons, and especially if they're under the protection of those Crenellation Castles, they're much more viable, I feel, in sniping Briton archers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be just a really important dynamic as we get into the Imperial Age.
Yeah, I think the problem really is for Teutons, you resisting conversions isn't helpful in this matchup. Britons don't normally go for a lot of monks. And Crenellation Castles is all well and good against some army, but that's mainly a helpful bonus against bombard cannon civs. Because, they start to push your castles with bombard cannons. You research Crenellations, and then suddenly the castle outranges the bombard cannons die. So Britons, they don't really go for the things that Teutons want to counter. So I'm going to circle this back to what I said about Valas in the second game. I think he kind of expected this pick, just like he expected Tatars on Ghost Lake. Obviously, it didn't work out for him. But I hope that he goes for his win condition. And an underrated move, maybe you don't do it on Arena, I don't know. But an underrated move that I think that Britons could absolutely go for and have success is just FC 4 TC boom. Just make sure one of those TCs is on stone, So if you get pressured, you can drop a castle. But I don't think enough players are just skipping the relics entirely with Britons and going for the town centers, because the town centers are so cheap. Who cares if they get 5 relics? You're going to have to kill them fast anyways. A 15 to 20 villager league can do that for you.
I mean, you don't need to sell me on just straight booming. I'm sold. And I do agree, though. Britain's like going for the scouts, the super meta safe build. It's one that, I mean, yeah, Britons can do it, but it doesn't play to their strengths. I feel like, especially these days, you really want to just lean into every single advantage you can get over your opponent, especially as this, the meta is so much more timing oriented, as we've been saying. And that does feel like where Britons are going to excel, is if you can just, get the huge eco and then just push out across the map with a bunch of like longbowmen and trebs.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I like it, but also players at this level are so good at delaying the inevitable at times, or not even the inevitable, but they're just so good at defense that the relic play does become more prevalent for that reason. Like, it might be that, and it might also be the fact that what makes the 5 relics strong in that instance for, let's say, Villese in this example, is the fact he'd only need to make 2 monks. Whereas if you're competing and you're killing monks and you've got activity in the middle, then he might need to make like 8 monks to get 3 relics or 4 relics, which is just more of a gold cost. So far though, it feels like Villese is gonna add a barracks. He hasn't added it yet. I'd be a little surprised with Teutons if he just goes Blacksmith Market on this uptime, but it does feel like Blacksmith Market for me from Valas. He's going up super fast here.
I think it will be for the straight boom. I mean, it's just with the 2 vills on gold. This is up on 24 pop, going to be taking good advantage of the fast-working shepherds for Britons. Indeed, there's the barracks going to be coming in for Villese. Could be market stable, could be blacksmith stable. Depends on what he's feeling. And yeah, going to be for a nice eco-oriented approach from our red player.
All right, now, when you realize that your opponent is not really competing for the relics, I think you've got to go forward Siege Workshop here. You obviously need to worry about your own economy too, but I think the worst possible scenario for you if you're Teutons is if those 4 TCs are just flowing uncontested. Even if your siege push doesn't accomplish a whole lot, just holding the map control with something, meaning that they have to spend 200 wood for the Siege Workshop instead of a couple more farms, or, maybe they under make army or siege. Any of those things. I think it's really important that Villese is going to have to recognize this. And I'm a little surprised here. He's actually going... I'm sure he's calculated it. Yeah, that's actually pretty good, actually. He went for both of his eco upgrades before he clicked up the castle here. And he's still going to be able to get the food.
Yeah, very nicely done. That timing's a little bit off, but that's okay. Still able to get up to Castle Age at a good time. We have 5 villagers on gold. That is still plenty for some aggression. And I feel like the siege push is one that is going to become a lot more successful against civs that don't have redemption.
Yep.
And yeah, sure, the crossbowman with extra range can be really good at sniping siege weapons and monks and all that stuff, but you just don't have the infrastructure or the upgrades when you're going for a boom like that.
Yeah. Well, Valas is not going to go straight boom. He spent some wood here on the barracks. He's also going to spend wood and food here on the spearmen. My opinion, granted, these guys know more than me, but my opinion is that I've seen too many instances where going just spearmen means your spearmen get converted, and then you don't get relics, and then you didn't have the TCs quite as quickly. But what I do like is that Valas could buy food here. He's gone for the arena approach and the Black Forest approach, which is underrated. Just send more on gold so you can buy food, which can really help you get some upgrades. And we have scouts for Villese and spearmen for Valas.
I'm always dubious of the spearman play, but on the other hand, it kind of makes sense if you're a civ that doesn't like going for scouts. But Monastery going to be coming in right away, and this will delay those extra TCs.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe the spearmen can have more of an effect because there's not a lot of space between their bases here where the scouts are. So the scouts can't use their mobility quite as much. Valas really wanting to kill that scout. I hope he heals up his weak ones after this.
He also get a little bit of extra melee armor now as Teutons on the scout, which is pretty nice in winning those scout fights, but one scout went down anyway.
A little woo action here. Let's see what Valas can actually accomplish, because he's just now adding a town center. TCs are 50% cheaper with wood with the Britons. I think it's 50. It somehow feels like more than that, but no,
it's 50.
It's 50, yeah. It's cheap enough where, as we said, right, like you could just go Castle Age on this time, and you'd already be on 4 TCs if you wanted to be. But you probably, if you go 4 at this point, you're probably not having a couple eco upgrades. So that's a little extreme.
Still able to get heavy plow nice and early before, the 8th farm is seeded is always really nice. 3rd TC coming in immediately before Villese even adds his 2nd one, because he's going double monastery. Oh boy.
Ooh, double monastery. Well, the thing we've always said about the spearmen play is spearmen do not have a way to counter monks. They do very little damage to the monks. The monks can easily convert them. So the best way to counter the spearmen play, and we've seen some players do it, and then we've seen some players not do it. So it's easier said than done, I guess. But it's just, don't get the relics right away. Move out, find the spearmen, convert them, and then suddenly Valas is just going to be sitting there. Valas is going to lose that monk as well. Whoa. Don't tell me he loses another.
See what's going on.
Oh. It's a Teuton scout.
Yeah.
Oh, he got converted!
Oh, what is this nonsense?
What? Teuton bonus. Dang, I mean, Valas will love that. He got, you could still get 1 relic, and now he has a scout to maybe kill some monks from Villese, so.
Oh, that's annoying.
That was a good play, though. Had he not added that gate, that monk probably does go down.
Yeah.
And now he's got the scout, and there will be a bit of a siege push for Villese, but he's got to be careful with his monks. He probably would have never researched Sanctity if it wasn't for that scout getting converted.
Well, he doesn't really have much of a reason for it otherwise, as spearmen are literally incapable of killing monks that are being healed.
Yeah. Here we go.
But as we were saying, Scout can also snipe some other monks, gonna force a conversion attempt, but with Sanctity, it's gonna be 4 hits to kill.
Everything's fair now.
Yeah.
Everything's fair. That guy was always going to be coming home. That was just his strategy so he can get back with his friends. Because otherwise he would have been stuck behind the walls. I get it now.
The old pretend you go to the enemy side so they don't kill you, and then you escape at the first chance you can get.
Yep. Power of the monks. This is still 1 TC for Villese, by the way. This is not a big boom. He will get 4 relics. He will also have some pressure, and he's going to go for the ram approach. An interesting approach, right? Because the ram, while it does take out the gate faster, it cannot really be utilized against units like monks or spearmen. So he's going to go ram mangonel, and players will oftentimes go for the mangonel, but I remember 2 years ago, there was this exact conversation was being had leading up to an event. It was like, do you go ram mangonel or do you go mangonel ram? And I don't know why that really fell out of our conversation, but we'll see.
Well, the style of push kind of fell out of the meta.
Yeah.
So it just became a less relevant conversation. But at the same time, now the monks will see exactly what's going on. And I do like the ram first when you think your opponent won't have a siege workshop. And there's no reason that Valas would have a siege workshop otherwise.
Monks? Oh, just hold the gate open.
Oh.
No!
Open the gate!
No!
Oh, that could have been a complete disaster for Valas, but he will be getting his siege workshop up as needed. Is starting to mine stone, but it's still going to be quite far away from a castle. And as we were saying, Britons, they are an irredeemable civ. They have no redemption.
Yeah. Well, tower for Valas. He didn't have enough stone for a castle yet, as you said, so he's going to have to squeak in guard tower here. And 2 guard towers on the front is great to stop an all-in push, but that's not the plan here from Villese. Villese is going 1 TC. He's bringing villagers forward here. He's going to try and drop a castle. And I know we had gone down the list of things that we could have, the Teutons can do, but I wasn't thinking monk tread push against the Britons. I really wasn't. But I'm liking it more and more as I watch it here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, Britons, it takes them a little while to get to their ideal army composition, especially if they're booming, especially if this was a more map control oriented approach from Valas. I mean, if Valas went for the 4 TCs, he'd probably have the stone for a castle right now.
Yes, and
one of those TCs would be on stone.
Yes, and it makes me angry because people keep trying to get relics with spearmen, and people won't go immediate boom with Britons. He's got 65 vills right now. Imagine what his vill count would have been if he just gave up the relics. That one relic has done very little for him except delay this whole process. But let's see. Redemption's just now on the way for Villese. He's got to be careful. He can't convert the siege just yet.
Oh.
Okay. We also do have ranges for Valas.
For Valas.
And Valas is thinking that this is going to be a Castle Age push here, and he could not be more wrong. Him getting Bodkin Arrow here for his tower and for his crossbowman, all these things are to hold against an all-in push, but he doesn't realize it'll be Trebs his opponent will have next.
Yep, and Castle is, of course, here going to be at the front. There are only 4 Villes mining stone, so the follow-up castle isn't really going to be there. Really lucky for Valas, his secondary gold and main stone are all in the back of his base.
Yeah, that's very true. Yep.
If you are in a situation where you need to defend against a push like this is probably about as good a situation as you could get in the circumstances.
Oh, man, but now the ranges have to be deleted. They're starting to be converted with Redemption. The value of Redemption. And the other monk is healing there, too. So, man, this is amazing. And then the Mangonels can't show themselves because they could get converted as well.
And one even gets converted right there.
Oh, man, this is all before block printing on the monks. Look at these 2 archers. Villese is getting some crazy value with his scouts combined. And he's got a Treb on the way. Now, he has 30 villagers behind. But I think he's been thinking that Valas is already on the way to Imp. Valas hasn't even clicked up yet.
Now, we'll likely need to go for a castle at the very back of his base. But not being an Imperial Age here feels like a huge issue.
Yeah.
And this is like one of those situations where eco doesn't necessarily matter that much, because what good is economy if you don't have a tech advantage or a military advantage?
Yeah. The timing for Valese's attack has been so good here. Another Mangonel gets converted. Look at the value he's gotten from a couple monks. He turned that into crazy villager kills, buildings being deleted, and he might even take the Mangonel here as well. And look, he's still microing back here with the archer and the monk.
Oh, that's so annoying. Valas does find a way to click up to the Imperial Age, so he'll at least have that going for him. Gonna likely need to use the market if he wants to get some good archer upgrades. And, you know, to be fair, archers with Britons are good against monks in general.
Yep.
But this is just such an annoying spot to be in.
Well, I wonder where Valas is going to make his castle. He's currently taking gold sneakily right next to Valese's base, which I have to question a little bit. He does still have gold income, but I guess take as much as you can right now.
and Villese sees this.
Yeah, seriously, like he could do something like send a Teutonic Knight, man. He doesn't have many other military buildings, but no, he's just gonna push in. I want to see the classic castle where the TC used to be.
Oh yeah,
I think that'd be
That's
epic.
how you assert dominance.
And the Imp TC is yet again the safest one for Valas, which is smart because I wouldn't have even considered the one on the right, because that was safe for a while, but that TC will go down. And also now you have Villese noticing the castle is going up, so he could just shift his focus immediately to that castle. Still a minute away from Imp for Valas, who's got an army of about like 10 crossbows.
And archery ranges that are going to become Teutonic very quickly.
Yeah, and the knight was added from the stable, so the gold miners are all dying, and oh man, this is so painful and so clean, obviously, for Villese. And these Teuton monks are healing pretty fast, by the way. These guys aren't dying to 1 or 2 shots from crossbowmen.
No, I mean, the Vill count, it's not even that much of a lead anymore for our red player. Crossbowmen going to do what they can, but as I always say, monks counter every unit in Age of Empires if you believe hard enough.
Yep, and more conversions coming in. Lots of belief. Treb's actually backing away because of the villager uprising, so that's nice. But all of a sudden, Valas makes it to Imp, and his opponent has more crossbowmen than he does. And there's still 13 monks, and there's still Trebs, and it's still really, really bad for Valas. He calls the GG here, Ornlu. But it was a great series, honestly.
Yes.
It was the 3-1 that maybe many people might have predicted, but it was way more competitive than I would have initially expected. Game 2 could have gone Valas's way. Game 3, maybe with a bit more map control, you never know. At this game here, I think that it was a Villese masterclass. I think Valas was assuming that he would have the eco lead. He was assuming that Britons could do well in late game, but he was not expecting a 1 TC all-in. And while he was probably expecting pressure, he was not expecting the pressure to come as quickly as it did. And it looked bad from the outside for us to look at Valas and say, man, you could have gone 3 or 4 TCs and been faster than this. I'm sure in his mind he was thinking, well, if this guy's booming on 3 TCs, I'm still faster. Our imp times will be similar. The last thing he expected was Monks there, and Villese moves on. Villese will move on to face, I should know this, I think it's Hera in the quarterfinal tomorrow or the day after.
Correct.
So, important to remind people, Villese, he means business in Titans League. He was in second place in the first season. He lost the grand final to Winchester by just one game. And to get to that final, just in case you need a little bit more clickbait to the guy, he did beat Viper 4-2. So he's good, and he's been getting better. Excited to see him in the quarter. Very satisfied with Valas, though. Again, he went from a player who looked like he was going to be relegated to making the playoffs as a player who got promoted up from the Gold League for this season. So I hope Valas isn't too discouraged. I'm sure he's pretty happy with his results, and I'm excited to see more from the guy.
Oh, yeah, certainly. I think that finishing top 12 in a tournament that is this stacked, and it's not like it's all like a single elimination bracket, right? It's that league format. You really need to have that consistent result to, advance forward. And I think round of 12 is a very respectable result for this guy.
And he could have, game 1 was incredibly entertaining. He could have easily won game 2. Like, these were not stomps, right? Maybe game 3 and 4 were stomps, but game 2 was close. So had he won that game, we'd be heading to a game 5. You never know what strat he would have. But yeah, 25 conversions in this game for Villese. That was a lot. And I don't even know if that includes buildings. Do you know if Capture Age includes buildings there when it says conversions?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, he converted 4 archer ranges. That's really what matters. And then he also forced one to get deleted at one point. So that's 1,000 wood of buildings that had to be rebuilt or not built at all here. So that certainly slowed down the cross moment.
Yeah. And just completely hitting Valas unprepared. And it was just such smart play and such smart aggression that we saw from Villese in games 3 and 4 that it really, actually, even in game 2 with the timing in early Imperial Age with Tadars, Villese is just such a smart and mechanically sound player that he is going to be a threat to go deep in any tournament he competes in.
Yeah, and I'm again really happy just to restate this with the performance here from a player who was promoted up from gold. Happy to see Valas will be staying alive, and I hope he learned a lot in this season. All right, we'll have 3 more quarterfinals after, I keep getting it wrong. Round of 12s, excuse me, to find out who advances into those quarterfinals today. And Ornlu, you'll be sticking with me for the next series.
Yep.
It wasn't as long as I thought possible with the map pool. And I'm slightly disappointed. We didn't have a single game go over an hour with those maps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just got to yell at Villese for being too good with his timings, man.
True. True. Well, we'll take a bit of a break. I'll message you on Discord and we can sort that out. All right.
All right.
Figure 5 to 10 minutes before we start the next series.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you then.